What is the cringiest thing you've done in school? In my first year of university, I was sat in a lecture and the professor was speaking. He said that this is a very intense class, requires a lot of commitment, and if we think we're not cut out for it then there's the door, and he pointed to the door and said then just leave now. So at that moment I stood up and made my way through the crowd towards the door in front of hundreds of people. When I got to the door he looked at me shocked and asked if I was serious. I said yes and then had to explain that I thought today was Monday. It was actually Tuesday and I was in the wrong room and wrong class. The whole lecture hall erupted into laughter and I embarrassed ran off. I was sat in an aerospace engineering class when I studied computer science. Should have just played along and pretended you were genuinely intimidated by his speech. Wore an Akatsuki robe and Naruto headband to class every day sophomore year of high school. This is the first I've spoken of this since 2005. We don't talk about pre-2008 me. You really do have some serious cojones. I respect that. Sleeping in class on 9/11. Teacher's aide came in and said a plane just flew into one of the World Trade Towers. I said wake me up if another plane hits it. Jesus dude. Wrote a poem to my crush and she read it to some of her friends while I was in the back listening. They laughed and I'm just glad I didn't sign it. Sorry bro. I know how it feels to be artistically denied. I made my own copy of a dude's homemade board game because he won't let me play. That's more funny than cringe lol. In first grade during science class I randomly flapped my arms around in an attempt to fly. The teacher stopped class to awkwardly stare at me. Our kids are freaking stupid. I used to not know the difference between F and punch, so every time someone tried to fight me I said what are you going to do, frick me in the face? I said that through pre-K to 4th grade. This one time I said it to a girl who wanted to fight in front of the whole class. Dear God. One time in 4th grade one accidentally walked into the girls' bathroom and had no idea I was there. I thought they changed the bathroom. Someone then walked in while I was in a stall and then I realized that I was in the wrong bathroom. I had to then pretend to sit and pretend I was a girl so that I wouldn't get in trouble. Then I ran out and went back to class. Then the next day, a girl in my class asked me if I was in the girls' bathroom. I pretended not to hear her and she said forget it. She didn't tell anyone because she didn't know for sure. Imagine if she saw this. Face rolling on the floor laughing. I called my teacher mum. And it was a guy. You poor soul. It was a math class full of noise just like any other. A friend of mine gave me a porn CD a week earlier. He was sitting on the other side of the classroom so I passed it up to him. He then looked at me asking what was in the CD. I said it was porn in a low voice but there was too much noise in the class. I repeated in a higher voice but he couldn't hear again. Finally I yelled saying porn. Right after one of those magical moments where everyone shuts their mouth simultaneously. I was a major pushover to this girl I had a crush on. She bullied the hell out of me but I saw her boobs in the locker room and instantly forgave her for her cruelty. I'd buy her food, makeup, lunch, did her homework and she continued to treat me like crap but I was too far down in the simp mindset. You thought that those set of boobs were most important then. When I was 8 I was hanging out with my friend at lunch and at the time I loved Pokemon. My friend said something and I did this really weird noise and fell to the floor like Ash Ketchum did in the original series. The memory still haunts me. Wrote a long note to this boy telling him how much I liked. I might have said loved him and blah blah blah. We had known each other since kindergarten so I did actually know him. He ended up dating some of my friends. Now, he's my stepbrother. I don't see him often but I cringe when I do. I just hope with the drugs he's done that he no longer remembers that letter. I hissed at someone in the hallway in middle school once. This reminded me of when I used to dinosaur roar at people in elementary school. Crushed real hard on a girl I thought was my friend but had pretty much completely abandoned me at that point. People tried warning me and I never listened. Made my life absolutely miserable. Took over a year and my coach finally sitting me down and being pretty blunt for me to finally get it and move on. And I never told him about it. The gossip train got to him. Your coach sounds like good people. This is the story of ATM boy. When I was in first grade one wanted to trick the other kids in my class that my butt was an ATM. So I went to the back of the class and shoved a whole bunch of coins up my butt. I then went to the front of the class and asked the kids if they wanted to make a withdrawal. When they said yes, I pulled down my pants and pushed out some of the coins. The class laughed hysterically and I was reveling in the attention. But then, some coins would not come out, no matter how I tried. I ended up going home that day with the coins still up my butt. I hoped that I could poop them out when the time came to poop, but it wouldn't come out. The coins were blocking the poop. So it got really serious and I had to tell my mother. She didn't believe me at first, but when I cried she decided to take me to the hospital. They took an x-ray and saw the coins in my rectum. They then booked me into the ICU and gave me anesthetic. It was pretty embarrassing, but luckily I didn't disgrace myself in the classroom by getting taken away by an ambulance while other kids were around to see it. The story is only known to me and my family. I would like to applaud the fact that you at least knew the total sum of coins you stuffed up your rectum. Despite how cringy it may have been, your mathematical skills prevented you from dying from blockage of the rectum, which would have been a lot worse. In 6th grade, as dorky as a human boy could be, I wrote a note asking out the most popular girl in my class. The timing was perfect for this low probability shot. Since I was going to be out of town for the week of Valentine's Day, I handed the note to my friend to pass along to her on said holiday. I did this just before my mum showed up to get me, and he passed the note immediately. Thus I was standing at the front of the class with my mother watching the note and laughter spread like wildfire. At least I got to leave town for a week. Oh big freaking oof. The cringiest thing I've done in school was when I was in the 5th grade and I wet my pants in front of the whole class. Oh frick you. Named my egg baby after my crush. Her BF knew I liked her, so he stole my egg baby and smashed it in the gym locker room. Cut myself for attention. I was a very angsty and depressed teen. Emo before emo became the thing. And cut my forearms for attention. Now, 20 years later, I still have the scars there. I'm in a much better place mentally and it's awkward explaining them now. Have you thought about getting tattoos over the scars? I brought Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles figures to school. To high school, we should've been friends. In high school a friend gifted me a Leonardo figure for Christmas and had given it to me in the beginning of the school day. When I was in middle school, I was really into Naruto. One day I thought it'd be cool and edgy trademark sign and use a Sharpie to draw the Leaf Village symbol on my ankle and wrist. I wore it around all day and thought I was hot shoot. There was even a point where I was sitting in music class and a kid a few seats in front of me was talking to his friend. And I overheard him talking about the Sand Village and saw he drew the symbol for it on his hand. I'm pretty sure I was probably meant to overhear. And maybe it was some weird way of him acknowledging me. But I actually got kinda mad he was stealing my thing. Face with tears of joy. Oh god. Impolish. On my vacation in Thailand I fancied a waitress who worked in the hotel there. I was 12. My classmates shipped me with a girl who might have liked me but I didn't like her at all. On my vacation I took a picture with the waitress. On our chess lessons, yes, we did have chess as a mandatory subject. We were working on a group project. We were supposed to make a short film and OFC I was in group with said girl. The group leaders created a messenger group. One day I pretended that I thought I was messaging my American friend. Pretty sure I made up his name to be Dylan, but actually I said that I have a girlfriend in English on the project group. Then when like 5 people saw it I sent a couple of messages that were like, oh I didn't know it was the class group WTF, and made a poll if they ever accidentally sent something to the wrong chat. I got kicked out of the group and they kinda made fun of me. I also cried a lot. Growing up I couldn't control my emotions, so when for example I lost a volleyball game or got targeted by my best friend in dodgeball I'd cry in front of everyone. Again when I was 11 or 12. Jesus Christ, this was so hard to write. I cringed so goddamn hard. You know those small little orange juice things. I was a kid and in lunch, I looked over to a friend and said, watch this. Keep in mind this was like 1st grade or younger. I then started chugging the orange juice. I don't know why this happened, but I just couldn't do it. I spat orange juice all over my peers. A fine preview for the rest of my schooling. Told everyone I was a lesbian and like sophomore year of high school because I was dating an old toxic friend. Spoiler, she broke up with me a couple months later and I'm as straight as can be. Really glad I'm in college now where I have a clean slate so I can date guys eventually. Edit. Unrelated, but in middle school I drew cringy big busted anime girls way too much. At 15 make the Fred voice in front of a bunch of guys thinking I was funny. Alpha Chad behavior. Took Rischer and ketchup packs. folded them in half and stuck them under the nubs under the toilet seats in all the boys' washrooms so that they would explode all over your legs when you sit down. I got suspended for a week and the principal was laughing his ass off when I walked into his office. Once I did an English final by writing down quotes from the anime Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann to fluff out my paragraphs wherever I could change a word or two to make it fit. And I think the entire last paragraph was taken from the show. Yet, as cringe as it was, I was the only one to get a perfect score on that final. I also wore the core drill from that show around my neck every day of high school. Found it maybe 15 minutes before I found this thread and immediately knew what to write. At the time when Fortnite was at its peak, I randomly started doing the orange justice during math. I just had that sudden urge to show off my impressive dance skills. Also, this was during an announcement that we were gonna do a fire drill. This was in 6th grade. Say what you will about Fortnite. When I was in 9th grade, one had a huge crush on this jock who played basketball and his birthday was coming up, so I stupidly made a card confessing my feelings for him in the card and signing it "Your secret admirer" and left it in his locker. He found the card and took a video of himself mocking the card and saying that the person who made the card is a loser and has no chance with him, and sent it to all his friends who in turn posted the whole thing to social media for the whole school to see. I was crushed in the inside but kept it secret that I was the one who made the card. Back when I was around 12-13 years old, I used to come to school with fingerless gloves because I was obsessed with the Teen Beach movie and I thought myself to be a biker good times. My teacher tell me to present my project, so I connect my laptop to the projector. I thought I have the PowerPoint slide on, but the screen show the Hante Doujinshi I was still reading. The principal called my parents to school. I felt the second-hand embarrassments from this one. I was in biology class in college. The professor was talking about body temperature and how it changes and how it is different for individuals. I obviously was not paying attention for some reason because when she asked the class what is your temperature, I rose my hand and said 69. Everyone and the teacher looked at me in disbelief. I thought she meant what you usually kept your house temperature at. I go on and say after that, it's the perfect temperature. A girl to my right says quietly to me, really? The professor says slowly, actually we are talking about body temperature. I remember my face feeling hot as I turn red in the cheeks. I go on to say the last words I ever spoke in that class. Oh, 98. 6 degrees. My talent show performance. Me and 4 of my friends performed a song we wrote. I have no regrets. It was fun as hell. My senior yearbook quote is from My Little Pony. I used to puke a lot. Like, I would get nervous and we moved around a lot, so I went to a lot of new schools. And always, either on the first, second, or third day, I would puke in class and it was embarrassing. Cringy? IDK. But definitely embarrassing. Also, I used to hiss and growl and scratch people in 5th grade. God, I hated that stage. I'm so glad that I moved away from that school. Be a JROTC kid. What was that like? I have done so much cringy shoot I can't choose one out of them all. Do I feel embarrassed for doing any of it? Absolutely freaking not. I hissed at people in 4th grade. You're looking at a guy who wore Naruto headbands in school. Went to school robo-tripping because I had a terrible sinus infection. I fell asleep in class and snored so loud the teacher had to wake me up because I was interrupting the lesson. I gave a freaking ring to my crush. But instead of giving it myself, I gave it to my friend and told him to give it to her for me. Worst fricking mistake ever. They ended up going out. Me and him were still friends until I moved overseas. Also the part where I cold gave her anything but I chose a ring. I freaking hate my childhood. In middle school I had a crush on a boy. My frenemy found out and somehow convinced me to tell him. We had a field trip. So the day of I left him a note asking if he liked me. I was sick the next day and never heard back from him. I could only assume what his answer was. My school published a book of student prose and poetry every year. So obviously I had to write a poem about it and submit my entry. And yes, I did use an analogy about me being a rose losing petals or something equally lame. Fast forward to high school. I find out a friend of a friend was secretly dating my crush at that time back in middle school. I still can't disentangle what the most embarrassing element of that story is. Go up the stairs on all fours. No, I'm not proud of it. We all have definitely done that before. I have a tick where I tear things up absent-mindedly. Paper, gum wrapper, toothpick act. One day in high school I was sitting there and I realized I was tearing up something unfamiliar. It was oddly moist yet slightly crunchy. I looked down and it was a large spider. I popped up and said I had to use the restroom immediately while resisting the urge to run screaming out of the door. Oh my god, my eyes literally bulged out of my head. In elementary I was trying to be funny in a talent show, so I farted on the microphone, and from there on my reputation was I'd rather say fine. When I was in a university criminology course, I got in an argument with an adult student who insisted that murder is an inherently impulsive act and never premeditated. I got frustrated that I couldn't sway this woman from her position. I made the mistake of sarcastically asking, since she seemed so sure, if she had ever murdered someone. Her answer was yes. It turns out she had participated with her lover on a killing spree. She was attending the school on a prison program and was incarcerated at a local penitentiary. I have long forgotten her name, but will never forget wishing the floor would just open up and swallow me. I still disagree with her point of view, but in the moment, I totally lost my appetite for arguing with her. Hahaha. Major facepalm.